All right, we start this new week of the SportsMax Zone with cricket, and after a bright drone show for the fans to commemorate the Christmas season, it wasn't a very jolly mood for the West Indies after losing the first T20 international to Bangladesh at Arnesvale in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Sunday. After labouring to 96 for 5 in the 13th over, Bangladesh fought their way to 147 for 6 of their allotted 20, led by 43 from 32 balls from opener Sumya Sarkar. Homeboy Obed McCoy passed the 50 wicket mark, taking 2 for 30, while Akil Hussain was the pick of the Windies bowlers with 2 for 13. Now the Windies then struggled through their run chase, finding themselves at 61 for 7 in the 12th over before a 67-run 8th wicket partnership between captain Robin Powell, who top scored with 60, and Romaria Shepherd 22, brought them 20 runs within reach of the target. In the end, though, a career best 4 for 13 from spinner Mehdi Hassan helped to dismiss the hosts for 140 as Bangladesh secured victory by 7 runs. All right, let's hear from the West Indies skipper Robin Powell on his assessment of the encounter.
Yeah, I think it's disappointing, to be honest. I think the bowlers put in a credible bowling performance on a wicket like that. And we always knew that as a batting group we'd try not to lose wickets in clusters. But we did that today.
Yeah, Robin Powell, the West Indies T20 captain, Nikhil Uttamchandani was on commentary, and he joins us now via Zoom to review the encounter. Nikhil, welcome again to the SportsMax Zone. Hope you're doing well. I'm sure, first of all, that you enjoyed the drone show that preceded the contest at Arnesvale last night.
Yeah, Ricardo, I think I enjoyed the entire experience. That was a return to Arnesvale for the first time in 10 years. Look, I didn't know Vincentian people love their cricket so much. I was pleasantly surprised, and I hope it's something that can continue for sure.
Yeah, fabulous crowd. A nation of just over 100,000 people, 18,000 of them turning up at the venue last night, and it was really fantastic to see. Let's take this one from the very top then, Nikhil, because the West Indies won the toss and they elected to field. On a normal day, not a surprising decision, because we know the Caribbean side in all formats, in all white ball formats, like to chase. But given the numbers, the history at Arnesvale, where ahead of last night, 7 matches, the teams batting first had won 6. Just 1 victory when batting second. How difficult a decision do you think it would have been for Captain Powell to decide to chase when you juxtapose the two situations, the history versus what the Windies like to do?
Yeah, Ricardo, I definitely think, look, they would have put some consideration into both things. I think, as you said, for a couple of reasons, I think they went with chasing. One, they had won 4 of their last 5 chasing. It's almost become their identity, where they are able to almost use their strength, which is the depth in batting, to pretty much chase whatever a team is set for them. But also, I think, when you look at the 5 matches we had at the World Cup earlier this year, everyone, when we turned up at the ground the day before the game, it was visible that this was a very different surface. It was a better surface, and it suited batting a bit more. So, look, whilst it looked a bit better, I think I completely understand why Robin Powell would have wanted to have a look first to see what it was doing and how it was operating. And I think 147, they would have backed themselves to chase that regardless, whether, even though the results skewed in the favor of the team batting first. So I think they put it down less to the toss and more to the execution.
Yeah, you just said something that jumped out at me. It has almost become our identity, speaking specifically to chasing in the limited overs game. Is that a problem for this Darren Sammy team? Because surely you can't put whether you win or lose almost solely on whether you bat first or not.
Yeah, I think it is a problem. I think that's fair to say, because basically you don't know. A toss is 50-50. You don't know what's going to happen in any game. So what we've seen in pretty much the Sri Lanka series, England, when the West Indies bat first, and we saw it again last night, there is an inability to assess conditions quickly enough, assess the situation quickly enough, and it cost them. In the 3 losses in the England series, where they had to bat first in all 3 games, and because of the time that we were starting at, the pitches always got better as we went later on in the evening. And it has been, it's no secret. Robin Powell has been quite open about it. It has been an issue for this batting lineup. And I think last night was a perfect example of a surface where it was doing a bit with the new ball. A few were skidding on, a bit of extra bounce. And again, there was no real change of intent or that evidence of batters trying to assess and really get in when you were chasing below 150. And I think they'll look back on it and think they'll be disappointed with the decision-making that they made, especially in that top 5.
Yeah, one more quick question for me this time as it relates to Robin Powell. It was a very good knock. He's been good this year in T20 international cricket for the West Indies, especially at the back end of the year. But the decision, final delivery of the penultimate over, some would say maybe that's not what cost the West Indies the game. But the decision to take the single of the final ball of the penultimate over and have Alzarri Joseph take strike at the start of the final over with 10 to get. What did you make of that decision, especially in a time when we see quite often where the batsman who is set, the batsman who is capable of hitting the ball out of the park, in situations like that will deny singles to ensure they have majority of the strike?
Yeah, my reaction was shock. And that's simply because you're 8 down. If Alzarri Joseph gets out the first ball of the over and Obed McCoy comes in, you're almost as Robin Powell stranded at the other end. So I was really surprised he took that single. I think we probably didn't make as much of it because Joseph was able to get off strike. And I think in that situation, if you're Robin Powell, and people said to me, well, look, Robin Powell could easily get out as well. But as the set batter and the senior batter, if he gets out, you say fair enough. Exactly what happened later on in the final over. But I think you always want your best batters facing the most balls. And I think with 12 needed, you back yourself to hit 2 boundaries. So I was really surprised. But it worked out for him in that particular ball because Joseph was able to get off strike. Yeah, look, it wasn't that. I just think there's no way that the West Indies should be 39 for 5. It wasn't a 38 for 5 wicket. And I think they've left themselves too much to do at the back end. And it's not easy. It's, as well as Shepherd and Powell batted, they always knew that there were 7 wickets down. It's not easy for guys to chase when you know there's not much left after and that initial pressure of having no wickets in hand, as well as the pressure of the runs that you need to get.
Yeah, and it brings us to the question, how big of a problem is it that, the Windies batsmen continue to lose wickets in that power play, that key period?
I think, Mariah, building towards the 2026 World Cup, right, which is in Sri Lanka and India, where surfaces will not always be flat, not always be conducive. You look at the last 4 losses for the West Indies, the 3 in the England series and this one, the top 5 batters are averaging 11 per wicket. And I think you look at the personnel in that top 5, even though it's changed slightly, they're much better than that. So Robin Powell, as much as he said, guys, we want to be aggressive because we have the depth, he also has said multiple times, because I've done the presentations with him, he has said, we want to consolidate if we lose wickets early. Just like at the way Bangladesh batted yesterday. They were 30 for 3, and then Shoma Shakar and Jacker Ali put on a 57-run partnership in about 42 balls. But the initial part of that partnership was just absorbing pressure. Now, Jacker Ali wouldn't have wanted to be 14 off 22, but there was the intent from him to say, I'm going to occupy the crease and just try to get in before I then start to attack again. So I think that small awareness of the situation, but also giving themselves more of a chance, especially when you're chasing 147, will be something that they feel that they're lacking. And I'm interested to see how they correct it going forward in the series.
Yeah, and Nikhil, I think it was Bish speaking about Akil Hussain when he was bowling, saying that, he's one of the best when it comes to bowling with the new ball. How effective was he when it came to, of course, that crucial period where, we felt as if West Indies were in front?
Well, Mariah, what can I say? I think if he's not the best in the world, he's right up there, maybe top 3 when it comes to the new ball. I mean, the guy against left-handers, against right-handers, and it's always a tough one, right? Because people always say, well, he's always restricted to bowl in the power play and never gets an opportunity to express himself out of it. And he showed in the England series his value of bowling in the middle and even at the back end of the innings. But when he's bowling this well and getting that ball to swing like he did to Liton Das, getting the orthodox delivery to spin away from the right-hander, especially with the wind factor that we had in St. Vincent last night, I can understand completely why Robin Powell gave him 4 on the trot, because he is such a natural wicket taker in the power play, and he's so difficult to score against. I mean, it's a rarity for guys to bowl 2 back-to-back overs in the power play. This guy bowls 3, and obviously sometimes bowls 4 in a row. So he is amazing, man. I think a great asset to West Indies cricket.
Yeah, Nikhil, you just said a couple of minutes ago that the Windies had no right being 38 for 5. And I kind of agree with you, but Mahidi Hassan, the off-spinner who was responsible for breaking the backbone of the West Indies batting, Charles, Pooran, Chase and Fletcher, he was the man that reduced the West Indies batting to the perilous position that they were in. Did he not bowl well, though, even though you accept that the West Indies batters may have been careless?
I thought, Lance, the entirety of that bowling attack, I know Tanzim Saki went for 25 and an over, but the rest of the bowlers in the power play, I think we probably obviously will focus on a West Indian angle, but as much as we are disappointed with the shot selection from the West Indies, the reason that those shots came out and the reason that we saw, you know, what we did and them to be 5 down in 7 overs was because of the pressure that Bangladesh put on them and the pressure they built. The areas and the length specifically that Mahedi hit, obviously being able to utilize a bit of extra bounce with that harder new ball. And then whoever supported him at the other end, Hassan Mahmood bowling in the power play. Obviously, Taskin Ahmed bowled 2 really good overs in the power play as well. I thought the length that they hit with that harder seam, it really was a challenge on a surface where you had that patchy grass cover. And Mahedi benefited from the collective pressure that Bangladesh built in that first 6 overs. It was exceptional.
Yeah, and Liton Das post-game suggested that it was their plan to play aggressive cricket because they knew that their total was very, very gettable. But he suggested post-match in the interview that their plan was to play aggressive cricket. And I take the point that they put the West Indies under pressure and caused a lot of errors.
Yeah, I think I was impressed, first of all, with the way that, for example, Shamim came out and batted. I mean, they got 51 in the last 5. I know it's been a struggle for the West Indies, but I like that even though they were in a difficult position at 30 for 3, they were able to battle back into the game. And then in the last 5, where they've struggled historically in the last 2 years, be able to find the boundary with regularity. But I think with ball in hand, look, they were brave. The wide Yorker plan from Hassan Mahmood in the last over, it's not easy to execute, you know, with a packed stadium of 18,000, with pressure on, with not a huge total on the board. But I do think that it's almost worked in their favor that they've got a young group, a lot of 22-year-olds, 24-year-olds, a new captain, and I think they've got nothing to lose. They have great memories at this ground, winning 2 of their 3 World Cup games earlier this year. And arguably, the discussions Phil Simmons will be having with his team is that, look, we are more experienced than the West Indies at this venue, so let's use that to our advantage. And I think Rishad Hossain and others did that brilliantly.
Yeah, the second T20 International, Nikhil, set for tomorrow night at the same venue, Arnesville in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Hopefully, there will be another massive crowd to cheer on the West Indies in 15 seconds. Would you make any changes to the Windies 11?
I think I would get Casey Carty in the batting lineup, maybe in place of Andrew Fletcher, because of what he showed in the CPL and ability to bat outside the power play.
All right. Well, he's learned 15 seconds. Stay with us, young man. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. We'll be talking about the women after this break, and Nikhil will be here with us for that. Let's go to a quick break.